Hey, welcome to World Entertainment, and this is episode 4's review for Daredevil Born Again. And yet again, we've got another boring episode where nothing really happens. There's some things that with Fisk that is getting quite frustrating what they've done with him, because they should be doing one thing, which we'll talk about, that they don't seem to be doing, and it's getting quite annoying. So this time around, we basically have Matt Murdock opening the episode with getting the mask and emblem and stuff back from White Tiger. We don't see White Tiger or anything like that, it's just his suit. And then we meet the niece again, who is like pushing him to, hey, the cops did this, didn't they? And they're really kind of setting up. I can't remember whether I said I felt this was going to end up happening. I'm pretty sure it did. And this episode seems to be cementing that this looks like they're going to try and do it. It's going to push the niece to become the new White Tiger. If they do that, I can instantly tell you that is going to look so stupid, because she is tiny. Like, she's standing next to Matt and she's barely up to his chest. It's like, oh, you can't possibly go in the direction I think you're going to go with this character. But it's basically just her kind of pushing him to say, look, you have to admit it was the cops, wasn't it? That's the only thing about White Tiger that really comes up in this. It's like, oh, that's it. And he's told they didn't retrieve the casing from the shot that killed him. And of course, he kind of asked the coroner, why isn't there a casing? The coroner's like, hey, I don't care. It's not my job outside of the body. So that's the opening. We also see and get introduced to Muse for about 10 seconds. And I literally mean about 10 seconds. He's walking down. You've probably actually seen this shot in the trailer of the guy walking down train tracks with the body in his hand. That's Muse. That's this episode. And that's all we see. We see him walking down the tracks, carrying someone. We don't know who this person is. By the end of the episode, we don't know who this person is. Just some random dude, apparently. And we just see a very brief shot of his mask. And that's all we get for him until the very end of the episode. So he doesn't speak or anything like that. And for anyone who doesn't know who Muse is, I didn't even know who Muse was. I had to kind of look up who this character was. You're going to sit there and go, who the hell is this? Is he a good guy, bad guy? Who is he? That's all we get. And then we instantly go to Kingpin in therapy. And everything in the therapy is just garbage. It's them asking basically Vanessa, hey, why did you screw Adam on blah, blah, blah. And her reasonings that she went with Adam is because of his hands. In fact, they look like they make things and stuff. You're like, what? And of course, by the end of their session, the therapist, who's isn't it Heather? I think it's Heather. Daredevil's new missus basically says, oh, I want to speak to Vanessa on her own for a minute. And of course she says, like, hey, are you safe with him? And all this crap. And Fisk says that he's had a conversation with Adam. And we do find out by the end of the episode that the marks on his hands that they kept showing, they don't show in this episode, but it is that he has Adam and he's beating the shit out of him, basically. So the whole thing more so revolves around with Fisk and Daredevil. Matt is given a new case immediately about this guy who is arrested for stealing this dessert cereal thing called caramel corns. And they're looking to put him in jail. They don't want to give him probation or anything because it's like his 7th violation or some crap. I'll swing back to his whole story because it's ridiculous and stupid. And Fisk's whole thing this time is he's trying to get things done, but of course he has to go through all the red tape, and it's starting to kind of slow all of his process down. That he wants to live up to the things he promised, and it's not happening. And I'll come back to all that because this is where it gets frustrating with what they're doing with him. So this guy, before we get to this guy who just seemed like a random dude getting arrested, you see Fisk's right hand man. I can't even remember what the character's name is. He's in a nightclub with BB from the BB report. And he let something slip about garbage. That Fisk isn't going to go through the unions and stuff. He's just going to get rid of the garbage. That there's a loophole or something. And you can instantly see on BB's face, like, oh, he's just told her something he wasn't supposed to, and she's going to report it. And as they leave the nightclub, because he wants to go home, because he's like, I have work and blah, blah, blah. The camera goes from him getting in a taxi over to a sidewalk where there's a guy in handcuffs on the ground with a cop standing over him and another squad car pulling up outside this convenience store. And it's a black dude, and he's like, hey, come on guys, this is bullshit, let me go. And the cop is eating this cereal stuff and hands another box to the other guy, and he's like, you're arresting me for stealing this stuff, but you're eating it. And the other cop's like, is this evidence? No, of course not. And they're like, oh, okay, I paid for this shit. And they arrest him. And that's all you get for this guy to start with. You're like, the hell was this shot? Was this just another, oh, cops are bastards? Which it absolutely was, but it also leads to Matt getting this case, which is this guy. And this guy doesn't want to take any advice from Matt. In fact, he's like downright disrespecting him. He's like, oh, great, I get the blind guy. Get me parole. I'm going home. I'm not going to jail or anything like this for stealing cereal. So Matt goes to like an arraignment type thing, and he tries to get this woman that he knows to drop the charges down to parole or pardoning or something. Can't remember. And she's not going for it. She's like, look, the dude is constantly doing it. And they kind of go back and forth. She wants to put him in jail for 35 days. The last time he was in jail, he did 30 days for the same thing. And Matt's trying to argue, oh, come on, you know, you got to give him less. And she's like, you don't get less the more times you commit these things. And Hardy goes, so she goes to 25 days. He goes to 15 days. And for some reason, she goes, okay, my last offer is 10 days. And he takes it. And it's like, wait a minute. Matt just said give him 15 days. You've just gone lower. Why did you go lower? It's a ridiculous scene. But then he goes to tell this guy that, hey, I got you 15 or 10 days. And that's a gift. And then we get possibly one of the dumbest scenes I think I've ever seen in anything. The guy's like, oh, that's meant to be a gift, is it? Well, let me tell you. And goes on this big pity party parade of, I was fired from a job, blah, blah, blah. I can't live. They put me in jail, so I missed me date to get my food stamps, which they cut me off then, and blah, blah, blah. And I have to rob from dumpsters. And I decided I wanted dessert. I finally wanted something nice, so I took caramel corns. And you're going to stick me in jail for 10 days. And that's meant to be a gift. And he's just going on this sob story of, oh, so you just want everything handed to you. And that is literally the message that they're giving with through this guy is, oh, you shouldn't have to actually get off your ass and work or do anything. You should just be entitled to receive whatever you want for nothing. And it's like, this is what they're pushing. Are you kidding me? Like, literally, there's no argument from Matt to turn around and say, you could just get a job. No, he just sits there and listens to this guy ramble on about like, oh, it's not fair that the system is doing this and won't give me food stamps and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, just get a job. Like, get off your ass and get a job. Stop stealing. You're trying to justify stealing. And it's like, there's other people who work to buy that crap, and you're stealing it when you could clearly get a job. There's nothing stopping you getting a job. It's so ridiculous. And he tries to get out of an argument as well with Matt earlier by actually bringing up scrolls. When Matt's like, look, they've got the convenience store has multiple cameras and has you on it. He's like, could it be in a scroll? He's like, no, it couldn't be a scroll. And that's his whole thing with basically Matt's episode, is just that he does find the shell casing. He goes to where White Tiger was killed. He knocks a little bottle of vodka over that rolls down the hill into a shore, and he goes down and immediately finds the shell casing and sniffs it for some reason. It's like, dude, that's been in the sewer. And of course, what does it have on it? It has a Punisher logo on the bullet. So he does go and see Frank Castle. We do meet Punisher in this episode. Very briefly. This is the one actually only decent scene in the episode. Is the arguments they have with each other. The first part of the interaction is a bit stupid, but then it gets good where Frank is basically saying, you're here looking for permission. You know, you're not here trying to actually convince me to go out there and stop people and be a vigilante. You're here looking for my permission for you to do it and stuff. And he kind of pushes them on, like, it's eating you alive. You won't even say his name. Of course he's talking about Foggy. And they end up having a bit of a back and forth, and that scene was actually decent, and the performances were really good in that as well. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, because Matt cries in this scene, Punisher's close to crying, that Kingpin was borderline ready to cry when we first see him in this episode at the therapy session. Like, he's literally, you hear the sniffles and like, oh, they're not going to have him cry again, are they? He doesn't, but he's about it. But that's really the scene with Punisher, and the only scene with Punisher in this. And it's almost like Matt is trying to convince him, because he doesn't want to be Daredevil, hey Punisher, you gotta go out there. But he kind of throws it back at him. So that was that scene, and it was good. And he walks away anyway. And he goes home, his missus is there, and the last bit we see with Matt is that he goes up onto the rooftop, goes into his area where he has the masks and stuff. You very briefly see the masks, the Punisher, or not the Punisher, the Daredevil mask, and he gets out his nunchuck stick things, and he's practicing with them. So you can kind of see where it's starting for him to lean back into going back to being Punisher. The whole thing with Mayor Fisk this time is basically, as I said, his right-hand man dude, the gay guy, lets slip about the garbage. So BB puts out a report which causes mayhem, and he owns up to it, of course, and Fisk is like, okay, but if you ever do that again, you know, it'll be the end of you, and yada yada yada. But he basically wants to redevelop the dock area. He's like, it's been an eyesore for many years, and now your woman, the black one that's with him, I'm not sure what her name is basically telling him, look, we can't just do that. And he's like, red tape is in the way. And she's like, yeah, I know, but you have to go through this. And he's like, right, do that. And she goes, yeah, but before you do that, you have to do this. And he, well, do that. No, before you do that, you have to. And she goes through all this crap. And you think he's about to fire her, and he doesn't. And she basically says one thing, and he goes, is that the starting point? And she's like, yeah. And he goes, right, well, do that then. You know, let's just get it started. And it's basically, we get to watch him going to schools and be sang to. So the next thing we see is him sitting in a school with the kids singing, we built this city. So then he's taken to Lithuanian, I think it was Lithuanian, embassy or something. What was it? A heritage thing or something. And they sing, not kids now, older people, but they sing, we built this city in Latvian or something, Adam. I think it's Latvian actually, not Lithuania. I think it's Latvian. Either way, they sing in their language. Being built, you're like, Jesus Christ. And then basically the last scene we get with him is him sitting, eating again. They always have a scene of him eating while the dude Adam is locked in a cage, screaming at him to let him go. And that, you think the episode's about to end there, and it doesn't. We get one more shot of Muse bringing a guy into a lair, basically putting him down. The guy starts to wake up to see Muse starting to draw his blood, like he's taking the blood out of the guy for whatever reason, and we just see Muse's mask again, like his face, obviously with the mask on, and that's where the episode ends. So again, nothing really happens. Now, the thing I'm talking about with Fisk, what they should have been doing is, he's sitting there and you can see he's not wanting to be in these situations. He doesn't want to have to go through the normal channels. He doesn't want to have to listen to kids and other people singing to him. He doesn't want to have his information leaked out and stuff like this. But they should be showing him building back up to being proper Kingpin. Like, they should be showing where he's going to snap, and they don't. There's almost indications of that kind of building up, but it very quickly just stops. And you're like, this was the perfect opportunity where you could really show, like, the anger starting to build back up, and they ignore it, which is really unfortunate and frustrating, because it's like, you should be building up. So you kind of get a mirror image of Matt training on the rooftop while Kingpin is seemingly being a Kingpin, sitting there while eating, while your the dude Adam is in a cage looking worse for wear. And it's kind of like, oh, is he leaning back into being Kingpin while Matt is leaning back into Daredevil? Almost, but they're not pushing that, and they should be pushing it more. So again, it really was just a nothing episode. Again, it didn't really move the story forward in any real way. And yeah, the whole thing of the guy getting the 10-day jail sentence for stealing cereal, and his whole argument was, I basically should be allowed to steal, you should be giving me things. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But there you go, that's the review for episode, what is this, 4? 5? I think it's 4. Yeah, 4 of Daredevil Born Again. So, with that, I shall leave it there for this one. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.